This is the Shark Nano slider from iFootage, and I quite like it. The Shark Nano from iFootage is a very compact slider that will give you smooth lateral slides as well as a pan system, which is built in right here. Now, I've used other sliders that can do that, namely my RHINO slider, which I've had for years. Great slider, but it's a little bit hard work to set up, whereas this is very straightforward. So that shot of me taking out the slider there is actually a lie, because if you look at the shots that I used to get here, I used the slider. They all have movement in them, and that's what makes them a little bit more interesting. But here's another lie. I actually haven't walked here yet. So the shot of me going over the twigs here, the shot of me going in between the trees and down the paths here, I haven't shot any of them yet. This is my first actual take. So there you go, that's a little bit of inside information in the filmmaking industry. Well, not really filmmaking, more YouTube, isn't it? It doesn't do a huge slide, it slides about 400 mil, but that's kind of all you need generally when you're talking about slides. You don't need to slide it a huge distance. Obviously it depends on the shot, but for a lot of stuff, that sort of 1.5 feet is enough. I've used it now for a few months, but I haven't delved deep into what you can do with it, because realistically with these sliders, all you want it to do is just go over and back. And if it can do that smoothly and quietly, well then what more do you want? So for this shot where I walked over the stump, I'm recording it in a higher frame rate of 60 frames per second. So that's going to give me sort of 2.5 times slow motion, so to speak, because I'm editing at 24 frames per second. So I'm going to actually set this to go quite fast, and I'm also going to set it on a loop so that it can give me 1 or 2 opportunities to do the move. So I'm going to actually go to about 6 seconds here, and that'll mean that the slide will really take 15 seconds. The touchscreen is rather small. It would be nice if it was bigger, but at the same time, it's very easy to use it. Now with these sliders, you can do different things. You can set your camera up to do time lapses, and you can program it and stuff like that. But generally, personally speaking, all I want it to do is this. Okay, set it to your in point, press the button. In this case it's B because it's on the right hand side. Set it to your out point. In this case, I'm doing it backwards. It's A I'm pressing here. Realistically, that's your in point. And then all you gotta do is just confirm that. You can set it to loop, and then you can just set the time. And I've it set there on 10 seconds, and all I gotta do then is press start, and away it goes. So easy to move around, so easy to fit into your bag, no fuss. And it uses that system which we need a word for, where it sort of slides within its own footprint and it'll slide further than you think it will. It's built really nicely. It's solid as a rock, lovely metal components, very good fixings. I even like the little feet that let you level it on the ground. They just work very sort of intuitively. You can just spin them and get it level on a table within seconds. Now, if you are sliding it on a table, you're not going to get the full length. So in most cases, you're probably going to be using it on a tripod. The little locking mechanism, even though it stands proud here at the end, it's not that intuitive, and you have to really have a close look at it to see if it's locked or unlocked. And the amount of times I've switched this on now when it's locked has been a little bit worrying. So I've ran into that a lot. I hope I haven't damaged the slider as a result. It'll let you mount it vertically as well. I'm not going to really go there because I'm using these bigger cameras. I could use this little mount that came with it, which will let me hold phones and maybe small devices. I'm sure I could get a GoPro to to fit into that or something. But as of now, I'm just going to use it like this. Maybe I'll do some vertical slides. If I want to do vertical slides, I have another slider from Moza that'll do that. Now, it uses these NP style batteries, which is great because I have a few of these knocking around. Plus, it lets you charge these as well via USB-C connection there. I like that. One battery will give you good power with this slider. It's at 49% there, and I've been messing around with it quite a bit last night. Now, iFootage also sent me this head here. I'm not sure what the product name is, but it's fantastic. Now, I was using an older one that had a different plate. And when I set up this slider first, it was doing this balance thing where it was shaking the hell out of the camera, and it was actually loosening the plate on the camera, and it really annoyed me at the start. So now what it's doing is it's calibrating the slider, and it's going to take about 40 seconds. So I know it's balanced fairly well, and after the calibration, I'm assuming that there won't be any evident slide, and I can just do my move. And another thing it was doing as well is it was creating this slight bit of a jitter at a certain point through the slide. Now, as it turns out, I think that was to do with balancing the camera. I think I might have had the camera a little bit front heavy or back heavy, and I didn't actually level the camera properly to get the center point of the camera, the center of gravity with your little plate here. What I suggest you do is get something spherical like a pencil or a pen, put it on a table and just get a rough idea of where that camera is balanced. So I'm just going to try and put it on the edge here and see what it's coming in at. So it's quite close to 20. And when it comes to fitting it into the head here, get it balanced roughly to where you want it. And that way you won't have as much pressure on the arc and you won't run into problems.
Now, if you're familiar with my camera review videos, you might know that I'm not crazy about using apps for camera control devices. I briefly use this app, it connects nicely and it works just fine. But for me, it seems to be more about actually setting up the slider to do a slide, rather than manually controlling the slider. Now, as far as I'm concerned, it's very easy to set up the slider with the slider itself. So I'd rather the app was geared towards actually controlling the slider manually in a tactile way. I would like to see iFootage revamp the app so that you can manually control the speed of the slider and the pan with your fingers on the screen of your phone. That would be better.
The slider comes in this little bag, which is very compact. Now, the good news is, if you don't want to use this, you'll probably get that into your camera bag. I think most camera bags will fit that, which is ideal. And again, that's what I like about it, is the compactness of it. When it comes to sliders, I generally prefer to use a slightly wider angle slide, but there will be times when you want to use a longer focal length in your slide. And generally speaking, with longer focal lengths and sliders, you might get a slight little bit of movement. And one area that I've noticed problems is when the actual slider reaches the end point and it does this, what you might describe as ease in movement and ease out. But I found that this has been great. It's been very, very solid at that last little point. Now, my other slider, the RHINO, has a hand device, a device that you can hold in your palm, and it has a knob in which you can actually do manual slides and just really ease it in very slowly at the end. And that would be something I'd like to see on this, or maybe a future version of this slider. Maybe if they had like an accelerator or something, a little knob, or maybe even a slider that you push and you pull, and you could actually just, speed it up in the middle and slow it down so it's not doing a sort of linear movement. Move it manually yourself rather than just have to set it to go and stand back, So I'd like to see that. There's a lot to like about this slider and there's not much not to like. I'd like to see a longer version. I'm sure they have one. The way it's manufactured, I'm looking at it here, they might even have a system where you could buy 2 new lengths and maybe switch the belt out and keep the motor and keep the, all the componentry. So maybe that's in the pipeline. But as of now, I think that length is fine. That length is really good for tripod mounting. You don't want to be going beyond that. And even if you are using this length, be very, very careful that you've got your tripod set up right. The last thing you want is a big expensive camera toppling over. Now, you can go down the route of doing time lapses with this and programming your camera to take a photograph at certain increments. Now, it's not something I kind of do every day. I'm not out there doing enough work as it is without doing time lapses, but if you want to do it, it is a nice thing. And sometimes when you put the work into these time lapses and you have a slider rather than just using a fixed fixed camera point for your time lapse, it does pay off and you will get nice results. Now, iFootage also sent me some of these guys, which are called spider crabs. I've this fitted onto a little old DJI stand, which is I think from one of my old Osmo accessories, which has since long gone, my Osmo. But it's just lovely for, you know, a desk light fixing, or, you know, holding a mic on something. And I think these things are great. And I'm thinking that iFootage are really making some cool camera kit. I have another one here, which is a hot shoe mount, and it's a smaller device. But just the componentry in these and the way they grip, it's just fantastic. So check out the spider crabs, and thanks to iFootage for sending those. So it wouldn't be right for me to have a slider out in the woods and not film myself pouring some tea. Let's just wait for this bit. The only problem is that the light is so low now. It's very dark. And I brought an LED with me, but I didn't bring a battery for it. So, cheers guys. From the woods here, thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of this video. If you didn't, apologies. Oh, there's some people coming. Yeah, go ahead, you're fine. Ignore me, even though it's hard to. Okay. So thank you for watching the video, I do appreciate it, and if you liked the video, do feel free to give me a thumbs up. And as always, if you have any questions on this or other stuff, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and a subscribe would be great, guys, if you haven't already. Now that's all from me on the iFootage Shark Nano. It's a great bit of kit. Do check it out, and until next video, I'll see you. Take care.